Scott's rant week wraps up. Local officials call for canceling rent payments across the country. And tax day comes without so much as a whimper from Scott. That and more today on the Real Estate World Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Pekarik, your host, and this is the Real Estate World Podcast with a special edition of Sunday Sermons today. You know, Sunday Sermons isn't necessarily my creation. I think it came from the church originally, but also there is a local, I'd say, I don't want to say sportscaster, let's say radio show host, Dan Barreiro, who coined the phrase Sunday Sermons years ago. So yeah, I guess I'm stealing it from him, but not really. I'd say I'm borrowing it from him. He's lending it to me, and I am going to return it even better than what he gave me. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. You have been actually. Story about Dan Barreiro, and allow me a brief tangent. He is a very talented radio show host. He's locally here on KFan 100.3 FM. They used to be AM 1130, but then they did a swap a few years back. But really talented. He was a writer for an ink-stained wretch, I believe, is how he describes himself, with the local paper here, the Star Tribune. And as a kid, growing up on the farm, as you know, we used to get the daily paper, and one of my favorite pastimes was reading the paper every day. And particularly, I would read that thing sometimes cover to cover, but I had a particular interest in the sports section and some of the more editorial commentary. And there were two guys who I always read. One was Patrick Royce. They were cynics, and the other was Dan Barreiro. And they had kind of a satirical, cynical, but really colorful writing style, and it just fascinated me as a child. Entertained me, of course, and I from time to time will check in with the show that Dan does. It's 3 to 6:30 Monday through Friday, and then he does a show on Sundays. He's really good stuff. You can get it on iHeartRadio, probably a dozen other places. But I would encourage you, no matter where you are in the country, and I know they've got more of a local bent, right? So it's more geared to Twin Cities type of coverage, but they hit some national stuff, and it's really good stuff. So anyway, just a little tangent there. So today, as in the intro, there was a few things. I want to start by saying, generally, when we get into April, you will start hearing your host here start squawking about tax day, April 15th, the Ides of April. And this year it kind of came and went without trumpets and fanfare, simply because we've got so many other things going on, and I believe they extended the filing deadline. Now, full disclosure, tax day for me, there's a couple major deadlines for me, or significant milestones, if you will. One is March 15th, which is when you have to file your business return, and then April 15th. But I always get an extension. I always file for an extension. And I will say, in years past, in the last 15, 20 years since I've been self-employed, I've always got the extension, partially because I was unorganized, partially because I was unmotivated to get it done, partially because I didn't have anybody putting a lot of pressure on. In fact, it became the status quo. But over the last couple years, 2, 3, 4 years, I've been more on my game, and I will say my accountant is the anchor at this point. And I'm not going to name names. I love my accountant. I've been with him for 20 years, but yeah, I need to light a fire under his ass and get things rolling, because I've been on it. I've been very organized. I've got a a gentleman who does my books who's fantastic. His name's Adam, and he has really, kind of kept the ship righted. I've been better at doing my part. So yeah, usually I scream and complain and whine about taxes and how I pay too much. And, the reality is, it is what it is. There's not much I can do about it. But this year I pretty much forgot about it, until I realized that I think I paid in too much last year. So now I'm like really motivated to get it done, because I'm actually going to get a refund. Typically it's Scott writing a check. I usually will screw up my, not pay enough on my quarterlies, or forget something I sold, or whatever. So, little look behind the curtain there, in my life. So what's going on this week? I did say, this was rant week. I felt like I was on a rant all week. I don't know what's going on. The COVID crisis finally made me go get a little unhinged, and I apologize for you having to hear that, but I don't apologize for having gone through it, because I think it's part of the healing process for me mentally, anyhow, where I had to get my, just kind of release some stuff. I've been struggling in a sense that I don't know what to prioritize right now. I don't know, there's okay. One thing I'm a little, I don't know, frustrated is the word, that might be a little strong, but one of the issues I have is I'm getting so many emails, and I know I probably signed up for most of them, but everyone, I assume with good intentions, trying to reach out, because if you listen to the self-help gurus right now, they're all basically saying the same thing. Stay in contact with your clients, be there for them, talk to people, don't try to sell them anything, etc., etc. And, the thing is, that's good advice, and I don't disagree with that. I think it is a really good time to just have conversations with people. I know a lot of people are scared. It doesn't matter who, everyone has their own reasons to be scared right now. And some of it's small business owners who are in dire straits. Some of it's people who have more concern about their health and what this virus may mean to them. Some people could be, job loss. Some people worry about their kids. Some people are going crazy because their kids are home and they're forced to homeschool them. It doesn't really matter what it is. There's just I think a lot of underlying tension right now. I have a lot of those same concerns. Our kids are home. It hasn't really been an issue. Our company is an essential service for property management. We need to mind the tenants and toilets. We have a real estate brokerage. That also, people need housing and need to move, and even in the midst of this. So, there's a lot of stress, a lot of strain, and throughout it, I keep saying, hey, let's stay positive. Let's keep a gratitude focus. Let's keep a positive focus, and I maintain that is true. I believe we should stay positive, live in gratitude. I know that many people might have elderly parents, grandparents, great-grandparents who are high risk. You're fearful of what's going to happen to them. I get that too. Like there's unfortunately, my grandparents have all passed away, but my parents are in that high risk category now. My mom had a brain aneurysm, which she miraculously survived about a decade ago, and she's in fairly, she's an older lady now. It's crazy. I'm 46, and my parents obviously are older than me, and they're in the, I don't know if they're in the red zone, but they're definitely in the in the pink area, or orange or whatever, yellow cautionary area where, my dad had heart surgery. I think he had like, I don't know, a 16 valve bypass or something. No, he had some pretty clogged arteries. I don't know if it was double bypass or what exactly it was a couple years back. But they are pretty isolated. They're still on the farm, and they're pretty social distanced as it is. So they have that benefit. There's not. I think the closest neighbor is like a half a mile away or more. So they are. Am I concerned about them? Sure, but they have kind of they have a luxury a lot of people don't have. They by just default are socially distant and can pretty much hole up on the farm from here till the rapture, and I don't think anything's going to affect them. And I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. If you're in a more dense community, boy, there's some pretty scary stuff happening in the assisted living homes here locally right now, with just getting some outbreaks here and having a pretty devastating impact. So anyway, so what's my point? My point is everyone's got something right now, like, right, there's everyone's got something that is threatening to really can paralyze you if you want. And I fought that fight this past week, actually really maybe 2 weeks, because my problem is that I do have a little extra time right now. And how do you allocate that? I'm used to having a boot heel on my throat and, gun to my back, or you got 10 hours and you've got 30 hours of stuff to do. And it's, determining what's the urgent important versus the important and then the not important, or, it's the whole Stephen Covey, what is it? The 7 habits of highly effective people. And he had that quadrant where, if it's urgent, important, not urgent, and beneath the line is not important, urgent, and not important, not urgent. And basically anything below the line is, if it's not important, why are you focusing on it, right? And for me right now, it's trying to figure out what goes in what box, right? If you have someone who, if you have a client who needs something and they have questions, obviously that's important. Whether or not it's urgent is depends on the situation. But when you talk marketing, or if you talk about doing a new podcast, or I'm looking at doing online courses. I'm working on a real estate app that'll basically, from point A to point Z, you can basically do the whole home buying, home selling experience without interacting physically with somebody. So all the way from the initial, if you don't want to even see an agent, you can have them, send you the paperwork in this app, sign it in the app, stores it in the app, list, schedule photographers in the app. If you want them to put a lockbox on the house and you don't even want to meet the photographer, the home inspector, any buyers, this whole experience will be in this application, including the closing, where you have, there's something you can do remote closing without even having to go to a closing, which for a lot of people right now, that sounds pretty good. And I've been working on this conceptually a few years back, and then started working on the architecture last year, and we're actually building it. So that's something I've decided to raise up in priority, because I think it's, the timing's really good for that. I think people's mindsets have shifted, their paradigm has shifted, where it used to be many people thought real estate was something that you had to have a lot of personal contact, like physically be present. Well, I think we're finding out that's not necessarily that critical. It's still I believe, a personalized business, but a lot of people, while we're practicing social distancing, do you want to, can you have personalized service, via FaceTime, or what's that new app, House Party? I haven't actually, I've been a part of a couple of the chats. I don't love that. Only because the reason I don't love it is there's just too many people on sometimes, and it just like it gets a little cackly for me. I think it's a good idea and concept, but yeah, I'm one of those people who really likes to be around people, believe it or not. And I know some of you that might surprise you, but I really long for that, and I love being in a crowd. I love being, where there's a lot of activity, a lot of energy, and it's hard to get that to translate on, house party. I don't get that same feeling from it. And I know, yeah, there's a lot of people, but maybe I'm hanging out with the wrong people. Maybe if I had the right people at the house party, I would feel differently. Anyway, so this app that I'm building, I'm trying to just refocus on putting more of my energy on that. There's another podcast where we want to put together. There's my wife is having to homeschool children right now, so the kids are home all the time, and I like to work from home a couple days of the week, versus going to my office, which is like social distancing, and I can't really do that, or I can, but I need to like figure out how to do it so I don't distract her and the kids with the schooling, which I believe we figured out a solution for that. So we're going to try it a couple days this week. And the reason I like to work from home is there's thinking exercises that I do when I'm and productivity things when I really want to write or really want to just focus in on an issue. There's nothing like just isolating myself. And I can do that in a library or a coffee shop, except for the fact you can't go to a library or a coffee shop right now. When I go to my office, there are still several people coming in. In fact, in some days it's busier than it's ever been, socially distant, of course, but because we've got other agents who are getting out of their house because their families are all home and they're trying to do their work and stuff. So it creates some challenges. And I understand, that people have worse challenges than this, but, one of our challenges is our sales volume will be down. And I think anybody who's being intellectually honest will have some of the same challenges right now, simply because there's like 40% less listings than there were this time last year, or less than that. And I, anecdotally, I'm watching daily the number of units coming off the market versus the new ones that are listed. And, this trend is continuing. And until we get out of this, this COVID semi-lockdown and people's mindset change, we're going to continue to have that as a challenge. Now, our property management business tends to be doing as well, or maybe even a little better than normal. So that kind of offsets it a little bit, but there'll be a revenue hit on our brokerage side for sure. And if you look at what's going on nationwide with some of the larger companies, they are laying off people. Like, Compass laid people off, EXP, I think, laid people off, Redfin, Remax is putting a hold on their monthly fees, I believe. Not sure what KW is doing, but there's going to be some changes there too. Now with the Paycheck Protection Program, that has changed things. I know there's companies getting a lot of money from that, and there was one company, I won't name them, but they were saying that they were encouraging their brokers to try to get commission dollars because that was covered in the Paycheck Protection Plan. Now that money's gone, and I don't want to make a political statement. Well, I do, but I won't. But you need to reach out to your representative, and if you are someone who is waiting to receive those funds or know someone who is, you need to tell them, hey, let's release that next round, because for a lot of business owners, this is the difference between having a business that can reopen or stay open and not. And for some people, and I don't say this lightly, I don't say it flippantly, it's the difference between life and death. There are people who, I read just a disturbing stat that said that, with every 1% increase in unemployment, like the rate of suicide goes up like 10,000 people nationwide. And that's just, it's absolutely appalling to think of it in those terms. But really, these things like, and if you're there right now, seek help. We will get through this. It's going to be, in some ways it might be harder before it gets better. And, just keep in mind, there's a phrase I heard several years ago. I think it was, every moment is a chance to turn it around. So anyway, not to be, again, not to be a downer. There's nothing on this show is ever intended to fearmonger or depress you. It's, we are here. Again, it's the show with courage. We are, we don't just, we don't just seek out disruption. We don't just embrace it. We're not just fueled by it. We are the disruptors, right? So, figure out in your life if things are stagnant. I'm disrupting my life today. I'm sitting down and I'm coming up with a plan for next week, because the last 2 weeks I've been a little flat, and I have let life kind of lead me around by the nose, and it's time to turn the tables. Now it's time to turn the tables, and we're gonna take control of life, grab it by the cojones, and come up with a very concrete, definitive, structured plan for the next, not just the next week, but kind of plan out the next month, and understand that can change, and then really set up some a structured, if you don't have a schedule right now for your day going to your week, you're in a lot of trouble. Like, you need to really lay out your week and stay focused, because it's really easy just to, sit back and watch reruns of Seinfeld, if that's your thing, or what's the latest Netflix, show, or the Tiger King, which my brother, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to have my brother Jesse on the show this week. He's not well. He's just not well. He's down in Phoenix, and I think he believes he is now Joe Exotic. I don't even think it's a joke. I don't think it's an act anymore. I believe he is actually, in fact, there's rumors that he may be looking at plastic surgery and having that mullet sewn onto his head permanently. So anyway, Jesse, we're thinking about you. I'm kidding. Kind of. But I like to goof on people just to make sure they're listening. Tried to go live on Facebook with this today. I don't know what's going on with Facebook. It's been a bit of a disaster. I'm sure it's just getting, probably 100 times the normal use, which probably isn't good. And I was unable to do it live. We'll post it later, as well as putting on our YouTube channel. A couple things, items that I do want to talk about today. Again, Sunday sermons. We don't really have an agenda when we do the Sunday show. That's kind of going to be our agenda, is that we are just going to, well, we don't have an agenda. No, we're recap the week and just kind of set the table for the upcoming week. So this past week, I didn't do guests. That was on purpose. I had a couple items I wanted to get out and kind of do it solo and focus on just what was going on, the topic du jour, the environment, on day to day. A couple things that came up during the week that I don't think we covered, that I wanted to put a nice bow on the week, is the whole concept of sports. All right, sports, and the what does sports have to do with real estate? Well, I don't know. I like sports. I like taking clients to sports, but this idea that what's going to happen with sports. There's been a lot of people talking about this idea of, Major League Baseball. We're in going into week 3 of the Major League Baseball season, or maybe we're going into week 4. I don't know when it's supposed to start, end of March, and where we haven't played a single game. The preseason or exhibition season, Grapefruit League or Cactus League games, those got cut short. What's happening with the baseball players. What's happening with the hockey season's canceled? I assume basketball season, I assume, is canceled. We'd be in the 3 months of playoffs for hockey and NBA right now, NHL and NBA. And what do playoffs usually start? April 1st, and they end sometime in August, and then the preseason starts in September. I don't know. It just seems like the playoffs last forever. So what's going to happen with NFL? The draft is this week. There's talk. There's massive amounts of money. What happens when these stadiums are empty? And I know if you're in Jacksonville, you already know what that looks like. Or I don't know how was Miami last year? Did you guys put anybody in the stadium? Anyway, so what's going to happen there? Are people going to pay for their season tickets? Is there going to be, if there's a season, are they going to play the games in empty stadiums? Is there risk to the players? I mean, you're getting, 50, 60 players together in a locker room, plus the coaching staff, the trainers, the reporters. I mean, does that, that's a gathering of more than whatever we're supposed to have right now. I don't even remember if it's 4 people or whatever. And you certainly are not social distancing when you've got, 11 football players on the line of scrimmage. There's usually 5 offensive linemen minimum, 5 O linemen, a tight end, quarterback, and then you got your D line, your linebackers, cornerbacks. I mean, when is you can't what? Okay, if you want to see how the Vikings cornerbacks covered the receivers, you could, the 6 feet of separation. I believe Xavier Rhodes was social distancing all last season, and I love Xavier Rhodes, but he did not have a great year. So what's going to happen there? What's going to happen with the money? Like, are the players going to get paid? Is there a force majeure in the contracts? I believe there is. I saw something with the NBA players. So these are and then we have these massive stadiums, these cathedrals of to worship all our sporting gods. Minnesota, I think the People's Stadium, US Bank Stadium, i.e. the People's Stadium, we gave the Wilfs about $600 million of people's money for the People's Stadium, and then they turned around and sold us seat licenses and charging us $11 for a Coors Light. It's crazy how expensive that place is. It's out of control. A hot dog is like $8. You could buy 24 Armor hot dogs for what one costs. And just don't get me going there. Anyway, so, and I love football. Like, guys, I don't think I'm not a sports rube. I am. The Minnesota Vikings are both the highlight and bane of my existence. All right. I bleed purple. It's disgusting. Anyway, so what's going to happen with sports? What's going to happen? I mean, they're banning fishing in Michigan. I mean, they finally opened up fishing here in Minnesota, and the land of 10,000 lakes is actually more like 15,000, and you couldn't even go fishing on them. And I'll tell you what, I drove by one of the local lakes on the public access yesterday, and it was packed. There was not an inch of space to park in that lot, and it's a big lot. I mean, we're talking 100 boats and trailers and trucks, and then the people were on the side of the road parking. And it was actually, I was happy to see it. I was happy to see that people were out. I think that is one of, I know it's one of the most healthy things you can do is get some fresh air and some sunlight right now. The vitamin D and just get the emotional lift you get will boost your immune system by just being outside and getting out there. So sports, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with these stadiums? What's going to happen when people, if they can't pay their taxes? I believe, was it Neiman Marcus said they're filing for bankruptcy. What's going to happen when people, and again, not being negative, these are just legitimate questions that we need to be asking. What's going to happen? Like, what is the impact going to be on budgets? when they don't have the sales tax revenue from the restaurants. How are these restaurants going to open up and be profitable when they can only have a third of the seating that they used to have? Are people going to be comfortable? And I'll go back to the sports thing. When, yeah, they might say they want to have the games, but are people going to be comfortable going to the stadium? You know, I saw an article where someone was talking about, well, they can take the temperature. Temperature doesn't do anything. If you have a fever, number one, it doesn't mean you have COVID-19. You could have a whole myriad of different things, right? You just have a hot flash for that matter. And and if you are showing symptoms, that means you could have been spreading the virus for 2 weeks up to that point. So doesn't mean anything. And then what? You're only going to let people come in if they've got the antigen. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't do that, but what happens then? Like, what if I'm a season ticket holder for the Twins, which I'm not, but say I am, and then you say I can't come to the game, or going to refund my tickets? What's the answer? Are you going to say every two out of three seats you can't sit in? There's some big issues that need to be worked out for these sports teams to start playing in stadiums with fans again. And even if they do think they haven't worked out, are people actually going to come? So I don't have the answers to those questions, but I will keep asking them. And it's interesting. Nothing to be stressed out about. As far as there are a couple other housekeeping items, I'm going to go for a run today. I'm going to try to get 5 or 6 miles. I'm excited for that. Tax day came April 15th. I think I covered that already. You know, it's stop paying your rent. Local officials call for canceling rent payments in Minnesota, but throughout the country. And I just really think that's a ridiculous position to have. I cannot say that strongly enough. This demagoguery between, taking a group of people and pitting them against another group of people. A lot of the landlords are also struggling. Many, this idea that someone, just because they own a rental property, some fat cat who gets fed grapes by, and fanned by the palace eunuchs. I mean, come on, just stop it. Like there are some very wealthy families that own a lot of rental property here in the Twin Cities and also throughout the country. And even those people, I don't think there's, you have, it's not me. I'm not, I own some rentals, but I'm definitely, I would not consider myself wealthy. I've managed to save a few dollars over the last, 40 years of working very hard. And, I've made a lot of mistakes that have cost me a lot of money. And I've managed to siphon away some money and live a decent life. But if everyone decided to stop paying rent, then what happens? I stop paying my mortgages. I stop paying the property taxes, and then schools don't get funded. Like, do these people understand? It's the city council here of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I just think these people, they just because you're elected doesn't mean that you're fit to govern. All right. And I know everyone's got a different opinion on politicians, and we take most events and we apply the filter of our worldview. So if you are a, left winger or right winger or libertarian or communist or socialist or however you want to, Green Party, however you want to, self-identify, you generally will apply that filter to everything you see, and you interpret it the way you already feel. That's kind of how life works, and I get that. But I don't believe, and again, you can be very, you can have a difference of opinion. That's fine. But I don't believe in hurting someone else as justified by saying, well, I'm trying to help someone else, so I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to tell, this is the problem with mob rule, right? Well, we got more people in our mob than you do, so therefore we can write the rules. Well, that's not really how society should operate, in my opinion. So what happens? So you tell the tenants, oh, you don't have to pay rent. Okay, great. So then the landlords can't pay their taxes. So then the schools aren't funded. The road funding, a lot of it comes from the gas tax. But, we don't have people buying a lot of gas right now. So that's going down, right? So, there's a lot of problems coming here, but schools are funded from property taxes. Municipal governments get funding from property taxes. So what happens then if renters stop paying? Then the landlords who pay a big chunk of the taxes, particularly in cities like Minneapolis and St. Paul here in Minnesota, what happens then? Like you suddenly you have put your own hands around your own throat by these short-sighted and, I feel, ridiculous, dangerous policies that you're trying. And of course, they sent a letter to the governor and said the governor should do it. They should. What did it say? It says that the proposal supported by the local government officials does not seek government money to pay rents. Instead, it asks that rents not be paid and that landlords and mortgage holders cover the lost payments. Are you crazy? This global pandemic has put a strain on every aspect of life in the U.S. and around the world, and I believe it's only a matter of time before it deeply strains our ability to keep people housed. This is from Jeremiah Ellison, who is the son of Attorney General Keith Ellison. Interesting. And Keith Ellison is charged with enforcing Governor Walz's no eviction order. Okay, well, this is interesting. Anyway, so again, I think this is just kind of ridiculous. I don't think it's serious. And my God, if anybody is given this any serious consideration, show me a door, a window, anything. I'm out of here. Like this. If this comes to this, I don't know. Will South Dakota take me? Will Canada, Alaska? I'm going to go hide somewhere. Anyway, so sorry. End of rant warning. Please, everyone, there's better options. There are dozens of better options that we can look at before it comes to this. I promise you. We have helped dozens of tenants get their rents paid by helping them get assistance that are put in place by the tax dollars we pay. And I will say overwhelmingly, the majority of our tenants are either working, are seeking work, which there are jobs, or are getting unemployment, which right now is fairly lucrative. $600 a week, federal government for 4 months, and half of what you were making, up to $720 a week in Minnesota. So you could literally be getting like $1,300 a week. I know that that's maybe not enough for everybody, but that should be enough to live on. Now you might have to make some other sacrifices. You may have to, if you've got a car that, your Maserati, you might have to sell your Maserati. I mean, if you had 2 people unemployed and they were getting $2,600 a week, and again, that's not everyone. I know those are the outliers, but most people that'll get you across the finish line when this COVID thing passes. We hope in the next 60 to 90 days. And if not, then hey, let's reevaluate. But having massive amounts of foreclosures and people not paying their property taxes is not the answer. End of rant for sure now. Scott, stop. Anyway, so with that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really, really, really caught in my craw. I don't know. This week has been exciting. It's been a lot of tragedy, a lot of negativity in the news with the pandemic, which which really sucks. And really my heart goes out to people who have lost loved ones in this, and for those of you that have lost your businesses, frontline workers who are putting their lives on the line. This is a crazy, ridiculous, and just strange time that we're in, and I just hope everyone is doing the best they can, staying positive in spite of everything that you're going through. And again, if there's anything I can do to help, I would. No, I can't write you a check for $100,000, and I wish I could, but we're going to keep on trucking, and I wish everyone nothing but the best health. And I hope to, be back here again tomorrow. And I'm going to be more upbeat this week. I'm not letting life kick my ass. I kind of did the last couple of weeks. I know that. I know it doesn't sound like it, but maybe my tone reflected that a little bit. But anyway, with that, I'm Scott McCark. This is the Real Estate World Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back tomorrow bringing the fire. All right, I'm out of here.